Hi, I'm David Corby, the Director of the College Complementary Medicine, and I'm going to be talking about mind-body medicine, which is such an amazingly exciting field these days as people are becoming more and more interested in how the mind and body interact and how that has an impact on our health. This quote comes from Plato all those years ago. He said, "The greatest mistake in the treatment of disease is there are physicians for the body and there are physicians for the soul, although the two can't be separated." And that is true today as much as it is all those years ago. And what mind-body medicine is trying to do is to recognize the links between the mind and the body, and how the mind ultimately is responsible for many of the conditions that we see today. And then, of course, looking at how we can treat both body and mind to improve both the body and the mind. For me, it's the future of medicine, because the old approach of someone coming along and just getting a pill or a tablet and so on to help with their condition, that is useful in certain situations. But by and large, it takes the power away from them. They need an external solution for their problem. And yet most disease, as I'm going to explain, is internally driven. Not so much if I'm stepping in front of a bus and get run over, but the more chronic diseases we see are very much driven by our lifestyle and what's happening within our mind. So to feel really empowered, self-empowered, we need to help the client to engage both their body and their mind to help find that power again. If you think about medicine generally, it's very disconnected. So we might look at the mind through psychological processes, like with the psychologists, psychiatrists, counselling, psychotherapists. But by and large, these people don't touch the body. So they work with the mind, they'll do counselling, sort of therapy, but without touching the body. Whereas the biochemical, structural people, like a GP, a surgeon, chiro, physio, naturopath, nutritionist, massage therapists and acupuncturists, they pretty much all focus more on the body, and with some exceptions, but basically that's a general focus, and it's normally on improving the body's biochemistry through drugs or nutrients, supplements and so on, or through improving the structure in the case of the physios and chiros actually working physically with the body. But who actually is putting these two together? This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's very good to have specialists, so definitely we need those practitioners, but we also need someone who understands the links between the mind and body, because that's how it works. If you look here at this picture of the nervous system, it's very clear here the nervous system isn't just in the head. The nervous system extends throughout the entire body. So if you're trying to figure out where does the mind finish and where does the body begin, really the truth is that the mind is throughout the entire body. That via the peripheral nervous system, the mind coordinates the entire body. In fact, it's its major function is the coordination of the physical body. But equally, the physical body has a lot of impact on the mind. It impacts on the mind through nutrients and nutrients and fluids and so on, which of course feed the mind. But more importantly, it interacts with the mind through the nervous system here, but also through chemicals like neuropeptides, which the body releases and that go to the mind and actually affect how we feel and how we think. So the mind and the body for me are completely the same thing. They're interdependent, they're codependent, and they're so tightly wound that it's really difficult to actually tear apart the two. So this arbitrary idea that the mind is in the head and the body is separate from the mind is only, at best, completely arbitrary. So what we do is we try to reconnect the mind and the body. So we might use the mind to understand what's driving the physical problem. Now, this is really important in terms of empowerment, because people have these illnesses and they come to us and say, okay, well, I've got this illness, I really don't know what I can do about it. And if they can understand what stress patterns in their life are actually driving that physical problem, that is a major breakthrough for them, because it then means that there's something that they can do about their own problem. The idea of that, of course, is try to tackle the root of the stress. And equally, we might use the body to understand the mind. So because often people are so disconnected that they find it difficult to really connect with their core psychological issues, we can actually use the body to help them connect with those. And so a lot of the time, in terms of connecting to that deeper sense of self and our emotions, we use the body to do that. So in terms of chronic illness, why do we get ill? You need to understand that the body's designed to win. It's not designed to lose. Between the ages of 15 and 60, the body's extremely good at being well. So to be unwell, usually we have to work on it. And it would be better when someone comes in and they're unwell that we ask the question, what is stopping the body from healing? Because that is what the body's designed to do. So if they're coming in and they're chronically unwell, you know something's stopping the body from healing. And that's really the focus of mind-body medicine, is trying to work out what is stopping the body from healing itself. In terms of Western medicine and mind-body medicine research, there's a tremendous amount now of research that points to the importance of the mind in affecting the physical state of the body. Even if you just think about it in simple terms, that all these double-blinded, randomized control trials that are done on drugs and other interventions, the reason why they have that basic research protocol set up, where they are trying to control for all non-treatment effects, and treatment's defined very narrowly as maybe just a pill. What they're controlling for are the psychological impacts on the healing state. If a practitioner and a patient have interaction, how they're more likely to get better. If a patient believes that the treatment will work, it's more likely to work. So these actual psychological or interaction components, these mind components, have a critical effect on the treatment outcomes. So all of these controlled trials are trying to control for these mind effects. And in all diseases, those mind effects are significant. And that's why controlled trials are undertaken, because it's recognised that mind has a major effect on the end outcome. In terms of psychoimmunology, that's a whole area of Western medicine devoted to looking at how our psychology affects our immune system. And it turns out that the degree of stress we have has a major impact on how good our immunity is. So particularly in terms of lymphocytes and so on, it's very clear that certain psychological states will turn on or turn off these aspects of the immune system. In terms of psychophysiology, that's a whole area of Western medicine devoted to understanding how the mind and the body interact. And there's been some wonderful breakthroughs here in the last 20 years. One of the key ones is in neuropeptide research, which is showing how chemicals that are produced in the brain range in response to certain emotional states. These chemicals range through the body and selectively interact with cells. So a particular emotional state like anger will have particular effects on the body's physiology. And they'll be different from the effects of, say, sadness. And one of the ways that works is through these chemicals that are released in the brain and travel through the body called neuropeptides. But the other interesting thing about the neuropeptide research is that, of course, the body itself produces neuropeptides, and these neuropeptides travel through the body and eventually dock in the mind with areas of the brain. And these neuropeptides can affect how we feel. So our physical state can actually affect how we feel and what's going on mentally. So there's this communications happening all the time between the mind and the body. And as I said, it's very difficult to see the mind and the body as anything other than interdependent. So the objective with mind-body medicine is that we're going to take this further by, instead of just looking at it as a broad brush thing of stress affects physical function, we actually map specific psychology and specific physical symptoms. And this is really fantastic for clients because they can come in with a specific problem and we can then ask intelligent questions that will help them understand how this particular set of issues they have are producing these particular physical symptoms. And that is very empowering for clients. It's always good for people to recognise what it is that they can do to improve their own health. And sometimes that's diet. Okay, because diet is very important for our health, of course. But sometimes it's simply our lifestyle and how we're approaching specific situations, what our major stresses are. And of course our major stresses aren't, while we often feel it's external, but they're not really external. It's the internal and how we relate to ourselves that really drives how stressed we get about anything. And it's these internal drivers to disease that are really important to understand, and that is what we help educate clients about. If you'd like to find out more about mind-body medicine or on courses and so on, you can call the College Complementary Medicine on 0294823603, or you can visit the website www.complementary.com.au. That's www.complementary.com.au.